Pope Francis touched down in Canada today, marking the first time in 20 years that a Pope has visited Canada and the first time since 1987 that a Pope has visited a Canadian Indigenous community. On hand to greet the Pope's plane were Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Governor General of Canada, Mary Simon. Also welcoming Pope Francis was the Grand Chief of the Confederacy of Treaty 6 First Nations, a drum circle from Alexis Nation, and several elders and survivors of residential schools. 85-year-old Pope Francis used a wheelchair throughout the welcoming ceremony due to mobility concerns caused by arthritis in his knee. He is expected to use the wheelchair throughout his time in Canada and limit public appearances to a maximum of 90 minutes. The Pope is expected to spend 3 days in Edmonton.
Do not know the Vatican made a contract with the King of England back in the Middle Ages, where the Pope said that he declared himself the vicar of Christ. The word vicar in Latin simply means someone who stands in for someone else. Today we know the Pope is the vicar of Christ. What does that mean? According to the Vatican concept that God created the whole heavens and he created the earth, he gave the earth to Jesus, his son, but since Jesus is not here right now, somebody has to run the earth, so consequently the Pope is going to stand in for him till he gets here, right? So he's the vicar of Christ. However, the Pope is very busy and he doesn't have time, so he made a contract between the King of England and the papacy in which the Pope set up the whole world in a trust and gave it to the King of England to rule the world. And at that time, the people who were called English became known as British. British comes from a Hebrew word, berith. In Hebrew, the word berith is a contract or a covenant. And ish in Hebrew means man or men. Therefore, berith-ish, contract man. This is why in the Western world, anything you're going to do in business requires a contract. That's the way the Vatican set it up. All international banking is based on contract. Consequently, all international banking law is based...
Leo just apologized for the Vatican's role in slavery on this black-ass holiday. That's right, Decoration Day. The day that white Americans took, reclaimed, whitewashed, and made into a mattress sale with cookouts. Most of y'all woke up this morning not realizing that today exists because of black Americans. Yeah, y'all ain't know black Americans started this holiday. It was newly freed black Americans who found a mass grave of Union soldiers, the same soldiers who had just fought for our rights to be free and seen as human. So they took those soldiers, dug them up from this mass grave, gave them each a burial, honored them, gave them a cemetery and a ceremony where black children sang and black leaders spoke. And every year after that, black leaders would speak on how to stop the rise of the Confederacy again, celebrating those fallen Union soldiers who fought for our rights to be free. And Pope Leo chose today, this black-ass holiday, to apologize for the Vatican's role in slavery. And I know what you're about to say, but other popes have apologized before. Stop, because no, they apologized for Christians being involved. And that's easy, but what Pope Leo did was he apologized for the role that specifically the popes played themselves. The role that they had in giving European kings explicit authority to subjugate and enslave people that they called infidels. No pope has ever apologized for that before, let alone acknowledge it. And y'all remember, Pope Leo, he one of us. Because I need y'all to understand, Pope Leo is the first American-born pope who carries blood from both the enslaved and the enslavers. He has blood from both sides of the womb, bitch. One historian put it this way, and I want this in y'all's mouth the next time somebody tries to tell you that the church was innocent. They said this, and I quote, "The Catholic Church has never been an innocent bystander in the history of white supremacy. Black Catholics have waited a long time to hear the Vatican speak honestly about the church's role in the transatlantic slave trade, and by extension, the enduring systems of anti-black racism in the world today." Now, yes, this apology is historic, but please, let's remember that an apology without action is just a press release with a cross. So the question is what happens next? Reparations? Land acknowledgement? Material accountability? Or just a Latin title and a press...
Hegel said, how do you take power away from people and concentrate it in the hands of the state? He came up with Hegelian dialectics. It's a triangle. One corner is a thesis, the opposite is an antithesis, and the top corner is a synthesis, right? Sounds complicated, but it's not. In other words, you start off with the status quo, you create a problem that's real bad, and everybody's happy to settle for your answer that's half as bad. And then you create another problem that's real bad, and everybody's happy to settle for your answer that's half as bad. Then you create another problem that's real bad, and everybody's happy to settle for your answer that's half as bad. And after every crisis, people give up a little more of their freedom into the hands of the state. And guess who was a student at the University of Berlin under Hegel? But Karl Marx. He was a member of the young Hegelians. And so Marx says, how do you create a problem that's real bad? An antithesis. You send in agitators, agent provocateurs, community organizers, labor organizers. Their job is to find people with grievances, stir them up to riot. And when the country gets destabilized enough, they panic. And then you have an opportunity for a dictator to usurp power.
For your children to be raised up in. Do you want your children to live according to the gospel of helter skelter?
Where are the inaccuracies in it?
Well, it would take me as long as it took him to point them out. It took him 2 years in court to invent them. It would take me 2 years in court to uninvent them and redo them and show the proper perspective of it.
Bugliosi.
Yeah. Helter skelter simply means confusion. And if you don't see the confusion in the world, there's always been confusion in the world, then I guess you don't know what confusion means. But I get out of jail, and every time I get out of jail, society's moving a little faster, and they're doing crazier things, and I get out and I can never adjust to it outside because it's almost impossible to do anything right. Everything is wrong with somebody. I mean, you have to hide, and day people and night.
Stella and our athlete dreamers call for a moment of reflection and of light, as she and the bull call for a moment of reconciliation. All is still.
It's time for the shards to work their magic again. Stella and the Dreamers used them to call for a moment of reflection and reconciliation. I thought that was Jenny Lemon coming back.
In fact, it's the chain makers that we saw earlier. And they lift away the bull's armor, the symbol of his enslavement and theirs. And he will be revealed as an iconic symbol of light.
So together, along with Stella and the Dreamers, they will heal the hurt, and they will lift away the bull's armor to reveal him as a symbol of light and love.
He will, by the way, have a permanent...
Now, if this door is considered to be holy, why is it even closed? Now, I wonder, what is he looking at? Because we can't see what he's seeing. But when he opened the door, I heard someone or something scream, "Help me." Now, as you can see, he covered his eyes. He didn't even want to see what was behind that door. Now, they're saying it's a holy door, portals, whatever it is. But if it's holy, it should have been closed in the first place. I don't know what's about to happen or what's about to go on, but something is up. And that door is a pretty big door. Who knows what's about to come? Shh! Shut up! Don't you say it. TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes only.
Came here. Memphis was home to black indigenous tribes, such as the Chickasaw tribes, that were thriving back in those times. Back during the 1818 treaty, this is when the United States government did a deal with quote-unquote our indigenous people to extract their land. We know it didn't go how they say it went. They actually came here, pillaged, killed, and destroyed, and basically our people were prisoners of war, and their land was taken due to theft.
Now, I wanted to show y'all this brief intermission. We'll get back into my video. So I went on the Library of Congress. I always go to the Library of Congress, some of the governmental sites, to dig in those archives to find all type of stuff. So I found this letter that was written by Andrew Jackson. And what I did was I ran it through AI because, of course, y'all, I could not understand this cursive. Some of it I could, some of it I couldn't, but I ran it through AI. These people took over 5.1 million acres from black indigenous people. That was the western part of Tennessee. Western Tennessee, they took over 5.1 million acres from indigenous people.
Let's go ahead and get into it. Bill Avenue was actually founded by this guy right here. His name is Robertson Topps. He was from Virginia. He was quote-unquote a white elitist or white colonizers that came here to Memphis back in the 1840s when Memphis was supposed to be booming for its commerce and cotton exchange and also access to the river. Bill Avenue was actually developed and came from him. They said that he was naming it after a military friend or Mexican friend or something that was a part of the military. Now, back when Robertson Topps actually developed and came up with Bill Avenue in the area, he wanted to make that area a heart of Memphis, Tennessee that can connect directly to the Mississippi River. Now, y'all, when Robertson Topps Avenue, it was actually developed as a white suburbs or a white area for white elitists that had a little money, that had prestige, money, and wealth. As y'all can see, he was developing him a mansion on Bill Avenue. The development of Bill Avenue was supposed to be this highly fashionable, wealthy, elitist, white neighborhood with the wealthy white families that wanted what Memphis had, as they still do today. So just think of Bill Avenue being developed by Robertson Topps as this white, suburban, elitist, wealthy neighborhood. So, like I was saying, the Chickasaw Land Treaty basically stripped black indigenous people of that land that Bill Avenue and Bill Street sits on today.